You can have all that you want to, darling. Know the world is yours. I've been up chasing the sunsets just to see.
Welcome to the Sparkle Show. With us, we have Kevin. Kevin, tell us about your plans if you get elected next week.
First of all, I'm running against Jim Costa, so people should know that because sometimes people don't know who I'm running against. Jim Costa has been a politician for 40 years, and the 16th district includes Fresno, Madera, and Merced County. So I think that's a good kind of a foundation to know where people know who I'd be representing and who I'm running against. And just really quickly, the district in Fresno runs from Clovis Avenue west about 1.5 miles, 2 miles past 99, so the Central High area. And then if it zigzags, but just kind of basically Shaw to Jensen. So it's all southeast Fresno. Southwest, this is in the 16th district.
That's really
Fresno.
important to tell viewers, because that's, I think, where everything gets really complicated for us.
It does, because things are so broken up, and so it all southeast, southwest Fresno, central Fresno, west Fresno, it's downtown Fresno, it's Tower District. I mean, it's all Fresno, and then it goes north to Madera, Chowchilla, and then the Merced area has about 12 cities in it. So it goes all the way west to Dos Palos, Los Banos, and then of course all the towns around like Atwater and Hillmar and Gustine and Planada and La Grande, and there's about 12 cities around the Merced County area. So that's what I would be representing, first of all, so people kind of get a visualization and understanding of the area. So I will tell you that when you ask me what will I do when I get into Congress, and I believe we're going to win this race, we're working really, really hard. I will start with things that I don't have to go to Congress for. Because, everybody says, well, I put the, language in the bill to do this and that, and then it doesn't pass. But here's my specialty that I do. And when I was with Clovis Unified, by the way, I was 25 years with Clovis Unified, 10 years in ministry. And the last 7 years with Clovis Unified, I was a principal of 2 schools at the same time. So
how did that work?
Well, it's funny. When I applied for the adult school principalship, in one of the interviews, in Clovis, you have 4 to 5 interviews. I mean, you don't just go. You got all these interviews. And on the 4th interview, I remember they asked me, what do you think about Clovis Online School? I go, I don't know anything about Clovis Online. I'm applying for adult school. And I told somebody when I got out, I go, why would they ask me a weird question like that? I don't even know what Clovis Online School is, that sort of thing. And so about 2 weeks after I became the principal of Clovis Adult School, they said, we want you to be principal of online as well. And they were very close together. They're only like 300 yards apart, so I could walk back and forth.
Wow.
And so it worked out great. But my specialty with the team, this isn't the Kevin show, we had a great team, was getting people jobs. And the way we got people jobs is we had a whole strand of career tech education programs that were health related. So people wanted to get their nurse assistant, medical front office, or they wanted to get their LVN, licensed vocational nurse, licensing. And then there was a whole business strand, and where they learned every kind of thing you can imagine as far as computer programs and everything else where they could work in the professional field of business. So we had amazing success rate. And what we would do is most of the people that came to our school, probably 95% were from low economic areas. And what we'd do is find them grants. And so, of course, grants you don't have to pay back. So we get Pell grants, CalWorks grants, Department of Rehab grants. We even had grants. We were one of 2 adult schools in the entire state that had grants for spouses of veterans. And so we would find grants for people.
I love that.
Yeah, and it was great. And we'd pair them up. And in the health profession, we had a 99% success rate. So we would get these people in that came from tough areas, tough backgrounds financially. We'd pair them up with grants so they wouldn't have to pay them back. We'd get them prepared for the state exam. They'd pass the state exam, and then they'd get off into the workforce. And we had an amazing success rate. So first thing up, when your question was, what are you going to do? Well, the first thing we're going to do is take that successful model
you had
and take it throughout the entire 16th district. Did you know before the pandemic, the United States had an unemployment rate that was the envy of the world? It was 3.5%. It was amazing before the pandemic. But at the same time, the unemployment rate here in the 16th district was 16.9%. This is had the worst employment rates, worst unemployment rates, I should say, but it goes either way. It is one of the most poverty-stricken areas in the United States. And the people that are in there right now, they've had time to fix this, but it hasn't happened. So that's the first thing I want to start with. And you know what, to be honest with you, there's 2 or 3 other things, but the second thing is we got to start cleaning up this trash around the 16th district. It is horrible.
How are we going to do that?
Horrible. Well, first of all, we don't wait for the government to do it. I have 400 volunteers on my team. And we can start getting churches to possibly adopt different areas that they can help clean up.
That'd be great.
Or parachurch organizations, or philanthropic organizations, whatever they may be. We've got to start pulling people together and saying, you know what, the government should be doing this, but they're not. So it causes people to lose hope. You know, when they see what's going on at the state level, even though this is a federal level, Congress, of course, is a federal, there can be a tremendous impact on the state, and certainly my loyalty is to the 16th district. So we can start putting together teams, and we pull together, and you know what? I remember, I think it was Ronald Reagan that said, if you don't care who gets the credit, you can get a lot done. And so if we can start pulling people together and doing this, because when people see this trash all over the place, it causes people to just not take pride in where we live, and it causes a loss of hope. I went out in front of my house with my wife the other day. It was Sunday. We were going for a walk. 2 different groups of neighbors came over. We just gabbed. I live in this wonderful neighborhood where everybody's, happy, and, they talk to each other.
Do you live in your district?
I do. I do live in the district.
Nice.
I actually live out off of, in Riverstone, right off of 41 and 12. It's in Madera. And the neighbors are just wonderful. And they both came out, and one was a young guy with a kid and fairly newly married. The other was a retired couple. Both groups said, we're thinking about moving. We cannot take California anymore. And in fact, the retired couple said they're getting a whole team of people, because you don't want to move away from friends and family. And they said they've got a whole group of 8 to 12 families that they're talking to about all moving to the same area so they can be together. And this is what's going on in California now, because people have lost hope. And we need to bring that hope back. And we need to, no more on the defensive in California. We need to start going on the offensive and take this state back, and take this district back, take this valley back. And when I say take it back, get government off our backs, number 1. And number 2, start taking pride in this district again. And number 3, the taxes are killing everybody. So there's regulation, taxes, over government, burdens on our lives, and people have had it. And there's going to be some people that hear this interview and say, well, good riddance. Go ahead and leave. Don't let the door hit your tail on the way out. But guess what they're taking with them? Their tax dollars. And if you lose the tax base in California, if you're getting a state pension, I don't care if you're a teacher or a fireman or whatever, you will lose that pension. And Governor Newsom is trying to figure out right now how he can dig his hands into pensions. So those people out there, they're saying, yeah, well, go ahead and leave. I don't care. You lose your tax base, you lose your state. And when the rush really starts, and there's already a rush, but when it really goes and hits the fan, it's going to be a stampede. Since 2009, we've lost 17,000 businesses in California. Yeah.
What can we do about our taxes in this area?
Well, there's only really one answer, it's not a simple answer. We've got to vote people out of office. They're the ones that are making these decisions in California. And what's happened is the leadership in California has deceived the public. So let me just give you a couple examples. Prop 6, remember the gas tax? People did not read the proposition. They just saw the heading, gas tax. Now, what are most people going to say when they see gas tax and they don't read about it? No, we've already got some of the highest gas taxes in the nation. So they voted no. Well, no meant yes. So all these people voted no on gas tax, but what it meant is you're voting yes for the gas tax. They purposely wrote it that way to deceive people. That's Becerra. Thank you, Becerra. That's Governor Newsom. And it's the people that are in the legislature and the assembly and the Senate. We got to vote them out. This is going to take at least a couple years before we get these people voted out and take back the state. Let me give you another example. Prop 47. They called it the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. It was a get out of jail free act is what it was. And it reduced all these felonies down to misdemeanors. And I went on 20 hours of ride-alongs with some of the greatest officers I've ever met, and they said, our hands are tied. We can't do anything. In fact, all this homelessness along the freeways you see, all the trash, all the digging out of the freeways, that's a Caltrans issue. But Sheriff Mims just talked to me the other day, and she said, we've requested to remove these people. And I think it was close to 200 requests. They've approved 2 from the state.
Wow.
And you can't just go on state property and say, we're going to take control of this. It's not that easy. So we've got to change our laws. We've got to change the people that are in these positions, because you've heard it a million times. Your viewers have probably heard it a million times. Elections have consequences. So the way you get this back, the way you start dealing with these things, we got to start voting in people that are not nuts. And it's just a big deal. So very, very important. We've got to clear them out. And I'll give you one other quick example. The other day, 13 people, perverts, were arrested on a sting. Now, I don't remember if it had to do with trafficking, women trafficking, prostitution. I don't remember if child perverts, whatever it was. But 10 were immediately released because of the no cash bail policy. And that was put into effect by the people in Sacramento, by our governor and the people in Sacramento. So when people vote this time, they might want to look, did they support the no cash bail rule? And because unless you want people getting out all over the place that are criminals, I wouldn't vote for that. Or how about AB 5? AB 5, we lost 1 million jobs because of AB 5. 1 million jobs. And so I would look at their voting record and say, did that person support AB 5? If they didn't, I'm voting for the other person. Voting is so important.
So you plan to do what you were doing on a smaller scale, on a bigger scale, as far as education and employment goes.
Well, yeah.
Or what do you think about dual enrollment?
When you talk about dual enrollment, what exactly is your definition of dual enrollment?
Well, so I'm talking about right now you have a lot of people that want to put their kids into different programs. So they want them to be able to go to college eventually. And I had, recently I had interviewed someone that was running for the school board that was saying it's very tricky right now because you have one district that offers one program, and then another one that offers another one. And right now I know this one family that their kid's in the Clovis School District, but they really want to put him in a program in the Fresno School District. And it's becoming very tricky, very complicated. What do you think that
so
solution is?
Let me give you my definition of dual enrollment. It's where people can look at another site within their district, and I'll explain why, and determine that they want to take, for instance, a CTE program at another school. So let me give you an example. Each Clovis High School has a specialty. So for instance, Clovis High School has a specialty career program that deals with construction, right? Yeah. If you go to Buchanan, they have special one on alternative energy. You go to another high school, they're going to have it on the medical field, like Buchanan. My son went to that.
Okay.
So what Clovis allows is they allow you to be enrolled at Clovis High, for instance, and like my son then had a dual enrollment. He went over to Buchanan and took the health classes, and you basically learn all about EMTs, how to deal with wounds.
That
how to
was
deal
still
with
in
a
the
lot
same
of things.
district, though.
But that was still the same district.
Right.
Where there's crossover is CART. I don't know if you've heard of CART.
I have.
That is a joint venture between Clovis and Fresno, and if you're a junior or senior, Fresno students and Clovis schools both meet at CART, and it's a wonderful program. I haven't met a kid yet that doesn't love it.
That starts at junior high, though. I know some kids that are younger that are gifted with some potential that were looking into that were asking about that, and that's kind of when I wanted to know what the options were for parents.
The issue with dual enrollment with places outside the district, it's all about money. Who gets what percentage of money?
That's where it gets. That's why there's a lot of regulations.
Because people are looking for the bucks. They want to have extra money in their district to pay for teachers, pay for programs, that sort of thing. So they're fighting over that. So that's why there's real hesitancy on one district to the next dual enrollment. So that's why when I asked you your definition of it, I was trying to see if it was within district.
It was intertwining out of district. So what's your solution? What are some of the things that you would want to bring in that, educationally speaking? To our area, to our district?
Well, listen, again, Congress is a federal position. So bringing it all the way down from federal to state to local to school, a lot of it has to do with school boards, the type of curriculum they approve, because the state approves, they might approve 5 different curriculum programs for U.S. history, right?
Right.
And then the board determines, well, which one are we going to use for our district and so forth. So when it comes to our schools, I would just say this. Our schools have become way too political, first of all. I don't know if you have seen recently what's happening in Los Angeles, but the CTEA, California Teachers Association, has become, as far as I'm concerned, they've abandoned our teachers. We have a lot of great teachers. Most teachers are amazing, and they work, they're at home, grading papers, they're doing all this kind of stuff. But the CTA at the state level, what I would call the union bosses, they've gone and turned their backs, in my opinion, on the great teachers we have in this state and on the great students, and they've taken on a very radical left-wing agenda. So if you look in LA, for instance, they're talking about getting police off our campuses. And they've got a very far, far left view of what should happen in our schools. I worked for 5 years at a local high school with nothing but discipline. I was in charge of all the discipline of the whole high school. And I can tell you, one of the most important staff on that campus was our campus officer. And she was amazing. And when I say she wasn't she was a real sworn-in officer, and she was absolutely amazing. And I could tell you story after story, lives that were saved, in my opinion, because of this officer. And so when they talk about taking police off the campuses, I did a study. We have 3.6 million teachers in this nation. 6% have been physically assaulted. That's 222,000 teachers in this nation have been physically assaulted on campuses.
I know.
And these people want to take law enforcement off our campuses, and I'll bet you 20 times that students have been assaulted. Maybe 30 times, because there's harassment, there's assault,
Right.
there's weapons, there's drug sales. I dealt with it all at the school that I was at. And so our officer, in fact, I'm going to tell you a quick story, and you need to hear this, because this will explain how important this is. I had a girl come to me one day, and she said, "Mr. Cookingham, my friend went off with some guy, and I don't have a good feeling about it. I don't know this guy, but he talked her to going off campus." And I said, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, and I don't have a good feeling." Well, normally you ditch a class, you get a Saturday school or something like, right?
Right.
Well, I got her phone number. Her friend gave me her number. I said, "You get back on this school campus, or you're going to be in more trouble than you can even imagine." And so she comes running back. Well, who came back with her was the guy. Well, our campus officer was there. And she goes, "You know what? I'm going to run this guy's history," right? Now, I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have gone in there and run it. I'm a administrator. She could. She's an officer, sworn
I love
officer.
that.
So she goes in and runs his background. He's a wanted felon, first of all. And so she slips on the handcuffs, right? And I couldn't have slipped on handcuffs. I don't have the authority to do that. He could have told me, "Forget you," and just walked right off campus. He probably would have used a few other words and just walked off campus. Not with her. She's a sworn officer. So she sticks on the handcuffs. She takes his backpack and she searches it, and everything she pulled out was what rapists use to rape a person. You know, the duct tape and everything else like that. She saved that student from being raped. I'll tell you that right now.
And countless others.
That couldn't have happened if our officer wasn't on campus and maybe killed. I don't know. But I guarantee you his plan was to rape this girl. And that's why I trust girls' gut feelings. You know, they're a lot better than guys. Guys are just like, you got to hit me in the head with a 2x4 to get things going. But girls have a sense a lot of times. And when she said, "I don't have a good feeling about that," I immediately called and got her back on campus.
And this is how we have to be proactive. So when you're saying there's a team,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
you're going to get.
Yeah, it's so important. So getting back to your original question, what we do on campuses. First of all, don't take away safety measures. You know, don't get so politically involved. Focus on the students and the things we need to focus on.
And listen to them like you did.
Yeah, yeah. You know, we had, when I first started in education, they asked me to, they hired me full-time to deal with alcohol and other drug abuse issues. Now, to be honest with you, I remember one lady used to joke with me. She goes, "How's Pat Boone going to help these people?" You know, talking about me. You know, how's Mr. Pat Boone going to help these people? I mean, and I've never, to be honest with you, I've never done drugs. But I did a lot of research on that. And we had so many kids that were helped through this program, not just with drugs, but with anger issues, very difficult family issues and so forth. We need to help these kids. They come from tough backgrounds, many of them.
I want to talk about something I read on your site where you say, "I believe healthcare is a fundamental need. Health insurance is not." Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I'd love to, because this is a very frustrating area for me because, look, the far left loves to paint conservatives as being these evil people. They want you to die in the street. They don't care about your health. They don't care about anything. We have a whole safety net for people that don't have insurance, and it's called community health clinics. We have 14,000 community health clinics across this nation. Think about that. 14,000. Anywhere you drive, throughout Fresno, Planada, La Grande, Madera, Parlier. Wherever you go, you will find a community health clinic. And they provide free health care. So I just happen to know one of the leaders of actually he's in DC. He is one of the leaders of the community health clinics. So I called him, I said, Ron, I want to find out about these clinics. And he said, did you know there's 800 of these clinics in California alone? And I said, well, let me ask you a question. What if the clinic was looking out their window and they saw a lady come in and they could tell that she drove up in a brand new Mercedes, just had her hair done, manicured, and she came in there and said, I have no money. Can you treat me for free? Would you treat her for free? He said, yes. We don't have time to do a background check on do they have money or not. It doesn't matter to us. If they say they can't afford it, we treat them. I said, okay, let me ask you this. Does it matter if they're a citizen or not? He said, no, we don't ask if they're a citizen or not. So there are 14,000 clinics across this nation. They're in pretty much every city that I know of. And if there's an area that is in need, I have no problem with putting another clinic. And by the way, get this. The average person that uses those clinics saves the taxpayers $1,000 to $2,000 per year per person.
Why is that?
It's just that they're efficient in the way they're run. You know, very few government things are efficient. But he told me they save between $1,000 and $2,000 per person per year if they will use those clinics. And because they're paying huge amounts when they go into emergency.
So that's not going to make premiums go up for people that have the health insurance.
It doesn't have anything to do with that. These are just federal clinics that are in play. So let me tell you one other thing. So I saw an interview by somebody and they said, well, my mother can't afford the pharmacy, the prescription she needs. So I called him again. I said, Ron, what good is a free health clinic if you're charging, $800 for a dang that prescription? He goes, Kevin, the government allows us to sell each prescription from $3 to $5 each. That's it. $3 to $5 for a prescription. That's a lot less than I pay for my copay.
Right.
So the point is, there is a safety net. And by the way, you know this. You can't turn people away from emergency. I don't care who they are. It's against the law. So I went into emergency a while back with my mother-in-law. I was there for 14 hours.
I believe it.
14 hours with my mother-in-law. And people just kept coming in because they can't turn people away. So there is a safety net. Does that mean we give them health insurance? Do you know how frustrating that is for middle-class people that cannot afford their own health insurance and their taxpayer money that they're paying through the nose with taxpayer money goes to pay for insurance for somebody that's not even here legally, when they have an option. And so there's a big difference between providing for a human need that's sick and giving them insurance.
Do you think a lot of this comes down to education?
Yeah, people have no idea all the opportunities out there. I would just tell you this, Sparkle. My favorite classes to go to at Clovis Adult School were the ESL classes. That's English as a Second Language classes. And you know why? I could walk in a class, and I think when I was there, we probably had 16 ESL classes. I could walk in and there'd be people from all over the world in these classes. They were the most wonderful, sweet people. And they'd say, where are you from? Egypt. Where are you from? Pakistan. Where are you from? Guatemala. Where are you from? Taiwan. Where are you from? China. You go around the whole world, and there could be 15 to 16 countries represented in one classroom.
And they really wanted to be here, and they really wanted to learn.
Here. And you know what? They come to this country, and they go, I've never seen the kind of freedoms and opportunities that I've seen in America. They are so grateful. They are excited about life, and they're so thankful. What I don't like is when I see people that have been born in this country, already know the language, and all they want to do is gripe and complain about the 2% that's bad. And it reminds me of the days, I'm a marriage, family, child, my graduate degree is in marriage, family, child counseling. And I used to do a lot of counseling with couples, okay? And I knew that when one spouse or the other focused just on the 2% bad of their spouse, things were in big trouble, right? Because the person could be 98% do great things, but if they focused on that 2%, we're in trouble. And that's what's happening across this nation. People are focusing on the 2% bad versus the 98% of the great things that are going on in this country. So I just love talking with these people, and a lot of them would come here with no English skills, and in 2 years they'd start their own businesses. And I love that. People love people that work hard and are successful.
Getting back to the homeless that we were talking about, cleaning up the streets, what are some strategies we can do? And do you think like affordable housing is part of it to blame? Because I heard on your website you also say homelessness is mainly a drug, alcohol, and mental health issue.
Yes.
So You don't think it's a problem that median home prices have grown much faster than the median income in the valley?
Yeah, well, that is a problem. I don't think that's the major problem with homelessness. I mean, a lot of people, I've already had probably 12 to 15 friends move out of state. They can get 10 times the home, 5 times the home in another state. But I will tell you this, that when it comes to homelessness, there's only so much you can do with the current laws we have. When I met with Margaret Mims about 3-4 weeks ago, and she goes, "You tell me what we're going to do, Kevin. We can't hold a homeless person. There's a no cash bail policy." And they've reduced the felonies now to misdemeanor. You can have a guy shooting heroin in front of you, and you can't do anything about it. So let's just say that I built a bunch of shelters. We did. When I was in college, I had a little studio apartment, right? Maybe we built tons of these little studio apartments for people, but it doesn't get to the root issues, which depending on the study, 75 to 90%, it's a drug issue. There are those that are just on.
So what can we do?
Well, we got to change the laws. We got to change the laws. The other things that we can start doing, though, is trying to find the relatives. That's just one thing that is a common sense thing, that we find out who they are, we fingerprint them so we know who they are. You can't keep them because of the laws that have been watered down. And we start trying to find relatives to see if they can be a part of the solution.
What can we offer? I mean, is there anything, so you do find them, you do find the relatives. What kind of help can we offer somebody in that situation where they're revolving door of addiction?
Yeah, there's not an answer. There's not. Until we change, I'm just being honest. I will tell you, I'm not going to feed you a bunch of political bull, right?
Right.
I'm telling you, you can't keep them. Let me give you an example. There's a guy that is homeless at the post office that I go to, and he always was wanting money from me. And I said, I won't give you money, but I tell you what, you get in my car right now, I'll take you down to the rescue mission. There's tons of room right now at the rescue mission. And they told me, I went there a while back, I interviewed the guy, he says, we got room. They don't want to come. And so every time I ask the guy, he says, no, I don't want to go there. So he has chosen, because my guess, I don't know, I haven't drug tested him, he's probably a drug addict. And guess what? Drug addicts don't make wise choices.
Right.
They just don't. And so until the laws change to where we can say, okay, we're going to take you out to an area away from the drug dealers, get you out of this atmosphere, and provide for you some housing, medical care, food, training in a career tech education program, something like that. Until we have the authority to do that, what are we going to do? Give them more clean needles so they can die of drug overdoses? I mean, San Francisco is giving out 400,000 needles a month. Do you know how many people died of drug overdoses in 2017? Take a guess.
Well, how many?
72,000. 72,000 people in this country died of drug overdoses. So these people that think the answer is giving them free needles, yeah, they may not be dying from HIV, or they may not be dying for hepatitis C, but they're dying of drug overdoses. So they can walk around and say, look how proud I am, look at my, pat myself on the back, because at least they died from a clean needle, from an overdose.
Right.
Dead is dead. Doesn't matter whether you die of hep C or HIV, dead is dead. And so my feeling is that's certainly not the answer. So we've got to strengthen our laws so we can hold people that are addicted, that are breaking the law, turn those laws into felonies so we can do something with them, and then get them the help they need, because they're not going to come just go, oh yeah, I really need help.
Well, and then my stance is, because you were saying that the churches could come and each take up a little part, like we could kind of, as a community, try to help. Yeah. And I think that would be great. But then also the whole violence part of it, so if we do that, and then that makes us vulnerable, they may steal from us. So how do we be helpful and yet protect ourselves? Yeah.
Well, you have to do it in conjunction with police, with law enforcement. They'd have to definitely be trained, because you don't want anyone to get stuck with needles.
Exactly.
You have to have the right resources, the right gloves, so you're not going to get stuck. But we've got to start taking care of this place. I've been to Haiti 4 times on mission trips. It's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and it's cleaner than what I see along 41, 168, 180, 99. You try taking the 16th Street exit off of 99 into Merced, and you look to your left there, it absolutely looks like a slum. A slum. And it's the same thing. It's not just Merced. It's other places in Fresno and so forth. We got to start taking some pride in this place. And we got to start pulling together. And we got to stop saying, well, that's Caltrans. That's Caltrans' problem.
Right.
Yeah, we need to go after Caltrans. But we need to come together as a community and start dealing with these issues.
So, you said you had a great team when you were working with the school. What kind of team are you going to put together if you are elected? Who are you going to recruit? Have you talked to like certain people? Who are you going to have on your team if you win on Tuesday?
So I have salt of the earth people working with me. We just had this wonderful meeting this morning. And by the way, we have 400 volunteers. 400.
Just now.
Just now.
It's going to grow.
Yeah, it's going to grow once we're in Congress. These people are passionate about this valley, about this country, and they have worked so hard on getting information out and working on social media and all these different things. And I always ask them, what's the most important thing once we get elected? I always say we, because it's not me.
Right.
It's the team. And I say, and they all know what the answer is. You know what the answer is? Results. That's the answer. So the people that I want to bring onto the team are people that wake up in the morning knowing, Kevin's going to ask me about my results today. Well, I better have made progress. And when they go to bed at night, they're thinking, did I make enough progress? It's all about results. And by the way, that's how we came up with a commercial that we did dealing with cost us 40 years in politics. And I had so many people come up to me and say, it's time for Costa to go. It's been 40 years, 25 years at the state level, 15 years at the federal level, and they keep saying it's time. So we did a commercial where at the last there's all these people, and one person said, it's time. And then a guy that speaks Spanish says, es tiempo. Then another person says, it's time. And then another guy says, it's time for Costa to go. Because it's not about experience anymore. It's about results. That's what's important.
I think that's what we all want to see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so sick of grandstanding politicians that get in front of people, and I won't give you too many examples. I won't give you any examples, but I get tired when people call a press conference, and here's what some people that are on my team wanted me to do some of that dealing with the debate. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to grandstand and start acting like a dang nab politician. Why don't we act like somebody that's going to actually get the job done and then actually practice what we preach, right?
Right.
That's what people want. They want to pull around people that have a vision that's saying, we don't have to stand here and take this anymore. We're going to start fighting back with our state representatives. We're going to start fighting back at the federal level, the local level. You know, we got all these city council people that are talking about, we may want to defund police, or the new word is reimagine, right? I just hate that word. Reimagine, really. Look what happened in Chicago, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles. You take away your support for police, you will see destruction break out. And you know what? There aren't too many people that like seeing buildings being looted, burned, destroyed, police being beaten and harmed, and lasers put in their eyes to try to blind them. You know what? I don't care what color you are. Nobody of any color wants somebody standing in front of their vehicle, judging them and calling them names. You're a racist, you're a,
Right.
Phobic, you're whatever. When they don't even know that person. And who would like that? You wouldn't like it if somebody stood in front of your car and started calling you all these names when they don't even know who you are, your character, and then they start banging on your car. Who likes that? And so human nature, you know what? I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Armenian. I don't care what color you are or what background you come from. We want safe neighborhoods, right?
Right.
We want safety. We want to see our kids be able to go outside. We want jobs. And you know what? Let me just say something about that. Our jobs that we have here, people need to have skin in the game. If you were some person I met on the street and you said, hey, Cookie Now, what are you going to give me? You going to give me a job? I'm going to say, what are your skills? Because you may have to go to a career tech education program and learn how to weld, or learn how to set tile, or learn a skill in electrical, whatever it may be. You don't just say, oh, I'm going to get you a job, because don't you want a job that pays more than minimum wage? Do you want a job that you can support a family with?
Right.
Do you know what they're paying in the Bay Area right now for union work, for electricians and sheetrockers and this? $75 to $100 an hour. I know people that just go over there and about 20 of them live in a house during the week and then they go home on weekends. They're making $75 to $100 an hour. Learn a skill. Get some skin in the game. We are compassionate people. I want to help people, but I don't want to help people that don't care about helping themselves.
Exactly.
And it may mean that some of these people that want jobs, they need to learn some soft skills, right? Hey, you might want to try being on time, right?
Right.
You might want to dress appropriately. You might want to wash your hair. You might want to stay off your phone. I went and lectured to a group of people that were looking for jobs. I said, why would people hire you? Tell me why. And they're all like, I don't know. I said, the reason a company hires somebody is because they provide a benefit that is greater than the cost of their labor. Otherwise, why hire them? I'd go bankrupt. So people hire people for what they can bring to the company that produces a greater result than what they're being paid. Otherwise, it's not worth hiring them. So people have to learn that, guess what? I better work my fanny off.
So a lot of this goes back to education once again.
Absolutely. My wife just retired. She taught at community day school, and that's what she taught her students, soft skills. Here's what you've got to do. Here's how you interview. Here's how you build a resume. And they do practice interviews and work with people on how to talk to employers. And she'd say, guys, stay off your dang nab phones.
Right.
That's your employer's time. Stay off your phone. Arrive on time. Dress professionally. Prove yourself. Make them feel that you're an invaluable you're a person asset, that you're somebody that, we don't want to lose that person.
Right.
Guess what happens if you have, let me tell you about a study. About 4 years ago, I researched, if I'm not in meetings, I research. I saw something come across that said why are millennials losing ground economically? I thought, well, that's an interesting, so I opened it up. It was a study they did. Get this, a study that they did on people, and they studied thousands of people, and they said if you do 3 things, you will be in the middle class or higher by your late 20s or early 30s. 97%. And get this, it didn't matter what color you were, it didn't matter your background. If you did these 3 things, 97%, that's a great percent of being middle class or higher. Here's the first one. Get a high school education or greater, right? Now, in California now, they don't give you the KC test anymore, the exit exam. I mean, you got to know how to read and write, right?
Right.
So get a high school education or greater. Number 2, get a full-time job. Now, some people are saying, well, that's easy for you to say, any full-time job. And there are tons of full-time jobs out there. They may not be what you want, but there's full-time jobs out there.
And
Yeah.
there you hit the nail on the head.
So that was the second thing. You know what the third one was? Don't have a baby till you're married. If you do those 3 things, you have a 97% chance of being middle class or higher by your late 20s. Doesn't matter what background you're from. That's pretty amazing.
That's great. And so do you tell people that too in your education about, hey, you might get with a job that you're not thrilled about, like you said, any full-time job, and then you work your way up to a higher one.
If you prove yourself, you know what you just did? You developed a foundation where people are going to write you a nice letter of recommendation.
Right.
And then you move on and you can demand a little more money and you prove yourself there and you move on. I have 2 sons and I have a daughter, and I've told my sons, you make yourself so valuable in that company that they're going, please don't ever leave, right?
I love this. I would love to see what you could do for us. I really hope that you win on Tuesday, Kevin.
I do too, and I think we are, and we just have so many wonderful people helping out. I'm excited.
Where do we contact you if we want to be one of your volunteers, if we want to join the team? Where should we contact you?
Yeah, so people can go to our website. It's Cookingham for Congress, FOR, CookinghamForCongress.com. And then there you can click on Endorse, you can click on Donate, you can click on Volunteer. And if you click on those sort of things, we'll get back with you and let you know how you can help. We're really kind of on the home stretch right now. I mean, we've given out so many flyers and other things, but I'm sure there's still something we can find for you to do.
Thank you so much for coming on, Kevin.
Thank you, Sparkle. It's been an honor.
Welcome to the Sparkle Show. With us, we have Savag. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invite.
So tell us, if you are elected on Tuesday, what changes can we see from you?
The very first thing is financial education. I'm a big proponent of financial education. And actually, I used to work at United Way, just not too far from where we are doing this interview. So I feel just at home here. And so financial education, we got to figure out a way to get credit building and financial education to our students, because a lot of these kids are getting out of school with too much debt and not good credit for them to make moves. I've always believed that credit is power, and the stronger your credit is and the better your finances are, that, that's power. I mean, look, the end result shouldn't just be the car that you're driving. If you're paying, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but tons of interest on a vehicle, chances are you could have done better. And so we want that message to be for the students, because after they're done, I want them to come out with a lot of power. And, you know, their credit, the stronger it is powerful. So that's number one. That's the first thing immediately that I want to get done.
And so much of the problem is that a lot of their parents or grandparents didn't have financial education. So it's really, you're kind of breaking like a cycle that's going on. That's got to be a little bit challenging, right?
We had that when I worked at United Way. We encountered that, and we put together workshops, hundreds of workshops, benefiting thousands of people in the valley. And at the end of each workshop, we did surveys, and I've read thousands of surveys, and I've found that people learn from this stuff. And we're not saying big changes, right? We're saying small changes at a time. Do little things at a time, and you'll get to your goal eventually. So that's number one. I'm tired of reading about students getting out of school with, you know, lots of debt and bad credit. It's time we tackle this issue, and no one else is talking about it.
Do you think grants are a big proponent? Do you try to suggest people go for every grant possible and educate them that way so they're not doing a lot of student loans?
That's a great point. So, and I'll tell you a story. When I went my first year of college, I had no idea that I needed to apply for separate scholarships. And so I'm sitting there at a scholarship banquet because I wanted to support the program, and they called my name. And I said, wow, they called my name. I must have got a scholarship. Later on, I found out I didn't apply for the scholarship, so I didn't get it. They just saw me in the audience and thought I got it. So that's a great point that you make. A lot of people don't know that they should be looking for scholarships all over. And you know, they may stop at their school. No, there's scholarships all around the nation and world. So I'm hoping that, you know, they look at some of things like that.
So tell us a lot about your position. I think that's one of the biggest problems in the voting ballot. We're like, what is this? What does this person do?
Yeah, it's the trustees oversee the budget, the policies, they hire the chancellor. Basically, it's the governing body of the state center system, not just
For college, though.
For college, for the
college.
state center colleges. So Fresno City College, Madera has a campus, Reedley has one, Clovis has one. There's a new one going on the west side. So a lot of people, you know, think of just City College as the only city college. No, we've got the state center system, which oversees all those community colleges. So this is the governing board.
So you see how the money is ran within that college, and then you're going to educate the students. You're working to help the students as well as the college.
With their own finances. You know, the students, you know, when I was in college, I used to go to a very famous coffee shop every day and have the large drink, which cost me X amount of dollars every single day.
Do you want to share at the coffee shop?
No, I don't want to put them on blast because I still.
That's
go there.
every coffee shop, though. No, I mean, coffee is the price of a meal. Like.
Right, and so I used to do that every day, thinking I needed to get me up and going to read, and I did a lot of reading, you know, while I was in school. So I did that through school and law school. So if you imagine, that adds up. So if I wouldn't have done it every day, maybe 3 times a day, and saved money the other 2 days, then I would have had a bigger pot now of money. So
Right.
It's just little things like that. But that's not the only thing. Look, vocational training. In 2018, there was a study done that 2.8 million jobs went unfilled in this country. That's a problem for me, especially when you've got unemployment rates as high as they are. We're doing a great job educating folks, but there's no reason why the businessman I spoke to 2 weeks ago said he can't find workers, or the mechanic I talked to last week said he can't find workers, or the forklift operator that said he can't find a replacement for him. That's a problem.
It is weird because I'm always hearing the same thing too. It's like there's no jobs, and it's like I'm looking for a job, and then it's like, what is happening? How do we bridge that gap, and how can you do that in your position?
Great point. I will go to the businesses and the community, and I'll bring them all together and say, okay, one afternoon on a Saturday or whenever it is, let's all get together. Business owners, what's your need? Where do you see your because look, the person that's going to be able to solve this is the one that actually hires the folks, that knows what they're looking for.
Right.
So let's bring them together and see what it is they need. From there, we build a program, and you know, there are schools around this nation that are already doing programs, 70, 80 vocational and technical programs. We don't need to build this thing. We don't need to recreate the wheel. We go to some of these schools and figure out how they're doing it. And so there needs to be more training in this city and in this county. And so one of the things I'm going to look at is what programs do we need to bring so that we don't have these jobs going unfilled, because each job going unfilled is a family or a person that could be generating revenue and putting that revenue back into the community.
And that's really helpful because, when I was in college, everyone was like, what are you going to major in? And you're switching your major a lot of times. And it's like, I think if someone said, hey, this is what's needed, people might actually think about maybe I should go that route.
There are people with associate's degrees making a lot more money than someone with a 4-year degree that's irrelevant. And people don't want to hear that, and people will get
My
mad
degrees are irrelevant, I understand.
Well, but the thing is, like, hey, there are a lot of things that people could have been doing in 2 years had we known or had they known. And,
right.
And we have to get away from, I mean we as a community, there's a lot of people who think, oh, that person went to a big prestigious school, so they must have a better education. Baloney. Because for me, I don't care about where someone went to school. I don't care the degrees they have. Are they a hard worker? Are they passionate about what they do? And that's what I look at. And so we got to get away from making it unique or fancy for somebody to go get this degree from a big prestigious school. If the community doesn't need that skill set, we're wasting our time, and that student is wasting their money.
So you mentioned how across the nation there are a lot of these programs at these other universities. Is California behind? Are we not where we should be, or what is?
No, I just think that we could do better. I'm not saying we're behind, and I'm not criticizing anybody, because the state center system has some awesome programs, but there's more out there that the business community can help us in fixing or creating that I think we need to do. I mean, there's no reason why the business owners should have vacancies. There's no reason.
There is no
It
reason.
doesn't make sense to me, especially in a community like ours where we have a higher unemployment rate than others. It hurts me to see jobs go unfilled. And go in Indeed. There are a ton of jobs out there but people don't have the skill sets to fill those jobs.
So if you're elected, do you work closely with the man that becomes in the school board position? Who do you work closely with?
We are our own. We make decisions based on the constituents that vote us. What do the constituents want? We do work closely with administration and
Well,
staff.
I'm saying like the man that's running for school board, like if whoever wins that position. So are you
yeah,
working
I
with the
would-
people that are taking care of the high school and elementary schools?
I would.
Because they need to kind of know what they need.
would.
You guys kind of need each other, right?
Right, and we'll have regular communication with not just them, but the city, all the elected officials, all the community members, because we're all intertwined.
And you're going to help them kind of decide what the programs they need in their school, so the high school students are ready to come into these college levels. Is that correct?
It's what program is needed for the city college or the state center system.
Okay.
But it would be nice to work closer with the schools too, especially on the financial education piece.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying, because a lot of our viewers, we just don't know what you guys do once you're in these positions, for some of these positions. So we're just trying to make it really simple for everybody.
Right. And
simplify that.
And that's a problem, because if you get the wrong people in these seats, they make the wrong decisions and nobody knows about it. I mean, the person that's in the seat now, he's had his fair of issues with, fines and all that stuff, and it's so kind of out of sight, out of mind that they can do that, and it's wrong. One of my other goals is to bring more attention to these local races and these seats, because they're just as important. I mean, we're dealing with education here.
That's actually one of the most important, if you think about it. So Kevin Cookingham, he was explaining about with education, because he had a big experience in education and the different roles. He said what he could do, listing kind of how with his incumbent, like there was not a lot of results generated. Do you see that with your incumbent, that there's not a lot of results generated?
So they're doing good, not the incumbent necessarily, but the state center system is doing some incredible things. I think I can add value based on my experience. I've worked in law. I've worked in nonprofit. I've worked in public health, which right now with the fires going on and the COVID issue, by the way, I like that we're social
6 feet apart.
distancing here. We've got that going. Good for you. You all pass. No, I'm just kidding. But with my experiences, I bring more added value, and I think that's what makes me more unique. I've worked in different sectors, so I can bring all this together.
But do you think you'll bring more results than the incumbent
I
has
think
in that
so.
spot?
I think so.
Has there been a lot of results? And is that part of why you're running, is to make changes that you wish you had seen before?
Yeah, I'm not happy with the incumbent. I think, when we elect people to office, I think those people, we need to be held accountable, and the incumbent in the seat now has kind of had his way of ditching and the
Dodging
issues.
issues. How long have they been in that seat?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah, so it's a 4-year term. Every 4 years you need to run.
So enough changes hasn't been made, and
Right.
that's it.
Right.
So what do you think that you could do that's a little bit better? You mentioned a few changes. We're definitely going to do financial education. What are some other things that you think you could
So
bring
the
in?
vocational and technical training, I think we've got a unique opportunity here, being in the valley, being right off the 99, where people can travel to and from us easy. We've got low housing costs compared to other areas. I think we're in a unique situation. So if we can bring some better programs here, and one of the things I want to do is one of the best first responder programs that the valley or the state has seen. And I think with a new campus going on the west side, we've got the pieces in place to make that happen.
So what have you done before that? You said you had a lot of different experiences. Tell the people what you've been doing.
Yeah, so I got my criminology degree from Fresno State. I wanted to be a law enforcement officer, and then I heard, you're going to be on the streets at night. And I won't tell you which members of my family kind of discouraged me to do that. But as I started getting into the more writing aspect of it, I started doing great in the law classes. My best scores were in criminal law and writing. So then I thought, okay, I've got this thing for writing, so I decided to go to law school, got my law degree, and the housing crash happened when I got out of law school. So I'll never forget, I was at a gas station getting gas, and I saw one of my attorney friends from the courtroom, and I'll tell you the story, and then I'll go back to what I was doing in the courtroom as a student. Saw my attorney friend, and he said, "What are you doing, young man?" And I said, "I'm studying for the bar." He said, "Pick a different profession." And I said, "Well, I just spent 4 years of my life and everything doing law." I said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "Don't you see what's happening in the economy? Lawyers aren't getting jobs, and if they have jobs, they're not getting paid. And, I'm losing my house, my wife, my family." And I thought, boy, this guy's hit a hard patch. And he was one of the good lawyers, right? And so I kind of felt that with I used to work at the DA's office. They were talk of pink slips and cuts. I said, no, I'm not interested in this right now. So there was a job offered by the Schwarzenegger administration and the local mayor here to run financial education at United Way. And so I applied, and I got that job. And so we did that for 3 years. We hit best practices. When I do something, I do it right. So our best practices went nationwide to the point where we got invited by the Obama administration to present at the Department of Treasury of what we were doing.
Wow.
All expense paid trip. We went to the Treasury Department explaining to a group of people from all over the nation of what we were doing in Fresno.
So what were some of the things you guys were doing?
We created a matchmaking program where we found churches and community groups, and actually we're in this building. I think Lau Family is in this building, and Lau Family is one of our partners, or was one of our partners when I worked at United Way. So I'm familiar with this building, and Center for New Americans is just across the way, which is another partner of ours. So we partnered community groups with financial institutions and financial experts, and they started having workshops. And so I applied for grant funding, brought some grant funds in to give gift cards and food. And so basically, picture this: community groups and churches having financial education once every couple of weeks, budgeting, money management. After the session, had a big party. We provided funding for food, and some of them barbecued, some of them brought pizza. We bought gift cards for attendees, and that's one of the things that I'm good at, bringing people together. And that's what I'll do if I get elected, is bring everybody together and figure out how we can fill some of these jobs.
So you told everybody that your structure and how you made all these changes.
We did. And also one more thing, the attention at the time was so great that, you know, Kamala Harris, who's running for vice president, came and toured United Way, and I gave her the tour of the United Way and what we were doing. So I don't talk about this
Here in Fresno?
here in Fresno.
Oh, wow.
Right here. Actually, right here, down a
Nice.
few buildings away from where we're recording. So she, you know, her staff heard what we were doing and said they wanted to come tour our center. We had a center at United Way where we did housing counseling, credit counseling, all that stuff. So she came and, you know, I gave her a tour of what we did in Fresno and where our center was. So that's the work I did out in the community. When I worked at the DA's office as a student, I got certified and actually was in the courtroom every week arguing cases in front of a judge, defending, you know, some people may get mad at me, but law enforcement made stops, and so my arguments were the stops were legal based on the law, and that's what I did with an overseeing attorney. So every week we were there doing motions. We would question witnesses and stuff, and I actually even did a trial as a student. I don't know how many people you know that have done trials as law students. I did a trial in front of a jury for a person. Yeah, and you know, I don't go
How did
around-
that work?
It was very interesting. It was very stressful, but we got a guilty verdict, and so.
And that's what you wanted?
And that's what we wanted. I was the prosecuting.
So
law
you
student.
won as a law student?
As a law student, I won.
That's amazing. You have a lot of great stories.
I could go on and on about some of the interesting things that I've done in my life, and you know, I think that makes me more well-rounded. Look, there's no secret to it. There are houses I go to and people I talk to say, I voted for you because you're the most qualified. Now, we're in a studio here. I also I put it on hold because I'm running for office. For about 20 years, I've had my own radio and television program. And
So what was the focus of that program?
community, everything about community, whether it's community, people doing things in the community, whether it's interesting things happening. I mean, you name it. Like it was just things that of interest. So those are some of the things that, you know, I did, and that was all volunteer based. Like I didn't make any money off of those programs, but I did
Right.
it every week. We've done probably 600 or 700 interviews with different diverse people in the community, and that's what makes me more unique. I've had those conversations with people. I've had those planning process type things with groups, and so that's what makes me different. I also do Write for the Bee. I stopped that because of the campaign.
I used to write for the Bee,
Yeah,
too.
so Valley Voices every 6 weeks, I would put something in there. So those are some of the things that I did, and I don't do them to make money. I do them for the community.
I think a lot of people don't realize that. When you said, you don't get paid for shows like these, you don't get paid. The Bee, when we talk about the money that's not there, there's no money. Basically, there's no money to do all these things. You have to do it because of your passion for it.
Everybody has hobbies, and all of us have hobbies. Your listeners have hobbies, and so I look at it as a hobby, and it's my hobby. Some people fish, some people do other things, and that's great. These are the things I did.
That's great way to put it. How long have you lived in Fresno?
I was raised here. I was born in Southern California, but I think we moved here when I was 9 or 10. So I went to local elementary school, went to local high school, went to Fresno State, went to San Joaquin College of Law. So I've never really left because I've loved this place so much. It's my home. My family's here. And that's another thing that makes me unique. I've seen this place grow. Like I remember when north end of town didn't have any homes, right? Like Herndon was as north as we would go, right? And not anymore, but it's been an interesting growth, and now I'm running because I want to contribute. It's my turn to contribute.
And speaking of, with your Armenian ties, what kinds of changes do you hope to make, to use your voice, if you're elected on Tuesday, to help the Armenian community?
Look, the Armenian American community has been great to me, has been great, great supporters, and it's a part of me. But I will say that the Armenian American communities have strong voices here. So clearly, it's been a part of me, whether it's the flag raising at City Hall to commemorate the Armenian genocide, which we started with the Armenian National Committee years and years and years ago. I think it's just an added, when I see things, I will speak it, and so like what's going on now with the war, I'm not shy to talk about any of that stuff. So I think, but Fresno, we're fortunate. We have strong Armenian American voices already doing marvelous work. So it's not like, I'm the only one that's going to do it. I'm happy to, also spread the message, but we have some very strong pillars in this community, and we have a lot of roots in this community. I mean, people don't realize that Armenian Americans, there are a lot of families who are Armenian American who you can't tell because the name, like the Peters family. A lot of people don't know that the Peters building, the Peters family, they're Armenian Americans. They came after the genocide or before the genocide. So there are a lot of contributions that Armenian Americans have made to this valley, and I don't think people realize that how strong the Armenian American roots are here, and it just is a fabric of this great community, this diverse community that we live in. The diversity here is unlike any other place. We've got like Fresno Unified School District. There's languages of about 120 different languages students speak. That's incredible. Think about that. Over 120 different languages, something like that. That may have changed now, but that was the number years ago.
Well, because we do have such a huge Armenian American community, do you feel like there's a lot of pressure that we have to make changes, that's all going to come from us, that's going to come from Fresno? And do you feel like you're going to implement that in your position in these schools and get more of an education out there? Because as we know, the Armenian genocide was not properly taught in schools. It's going to be taught in Colorado. Is that something you hope to see taught in colleges?
There is a movement now to bring the genocide to education all over California. Of course, I'll be a part of that because I think the truth needs to be told, and it's a truth that we've not been willing, we as in Americans have not really talked about because our relationship with Turkey. So a lot of people don't realize that there is an air base in Turkey, Incirlik Airfield, that has U.S. military presence. As soon as we talk about these things that Turkey doesn't like, the first thing they say is, we're not going to let you have access to the air base. Well, that hurts us as Americans because we need to be in the Middle East for various reasons. So that's one. But I say that, but we also pay for that airbase billions of dollars every year. So it's not like they're doing us a favor, which they sound. And lately, the latest rhetoric from the Turkish president was he's threatening the U.S., saying, I dare you to impose sanctions on us. So this is not a friend that we have. I think a lot of people think that Turkey is our ally. Turkey is not our ally. They're in it for themselves. They get billions of dollars from us. And so, but we have a lot of business interest there and political interest there, and that's what makes this issue a little bit complicated. You have small Armenia, and you have large Turkey and large Azerbaijan next to it. Oil producing, huge tourist attracted places, huge business interests. So that's why the Americans are a little more careful in how they present this, but I think that's changing too as people are realizing the true nature of Turkey and Azerbaijan, which they're cousin people, by the way.
Well, that was very well said. To switch gears on that, if you are in this position, do you have power over the faculty and getting us different educators or not really?
The power is with the people, so the constituents have power over me. So I don't want to say I have power over anybody. I do what the constituents want. So if the constituents want me to bring forth different curriculum, I'm happy to mention that. But it starts with the constituents. They're the ones that elect me. And unfortunately, these days, we have a lot of politicians that get elected in office and forget that piece. But really, the power is the people, your vote. And so I hope whoever's listening to this, whether they come out and vote for me or not, that's not relevant. They need to go out and vote because that's who has the power, the people. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that these days.
But will you have the power to say, if they want to get different faculty involved, different people, bringing us professors from all over the world, do you have say in, like, I think we need to do this? You see if people aren't doing their job, or perhaps they have been doing their job too long and they need to get out, we need to get other people in. Do you have power like that or not necessarily?
That's a tricky one because of, there's a lot of power that the professors have and the teachers' unions have. I'm going to do my best to do what's right. And so if that means that, the community is saying there are problems, then guess what? We're going to address those problems. I'm not in it to make friends. I'm not in it for a political career. I've got a job. I'm not in this because I want something to gain. I want to give back. And if that means that I'm in there and I'm making enemies, so be it. I'm not in this to make friends. So if the constituents say, hey, there's a problem here, we need to address it, I'm happy to bring forth those issues. And I'm not in it. I'm not in this to be liked. I'm not in this to be loved. If I'm going to, advocate for the people, I might rough people's feathers the wrong way, and that's fine. Bring it.
Well, that's well said. I was just wondering again about the power that you have, because I know you're doing a lot with the finances and where the colleges spend money. I just want to know how involved you are in the whole process
the
of
budget.
these California schools.
So the budget, you're as a trustee, you're voting on the budget and you're analyzing the budget. And if you feel like certain things aren't addressed, then you're going to bring that up and you're going to ask administration to amend their budget. And so I'm happy to do that. So if, there's 7 of us, so it's not just one person.
Right.
You just, you're going to have to work with others and, see what there is.
Have you seen, do you think, what are some of the unwise choices you've seen money go to that you think should be scaled back, and some places that you think money should go to that it hasn't been going to?
So COVID is going to create, and it already has, a big hamper on the economy, and that includes local governments and schools. So there's no way around this piece of it. So I want to see things scaled back. I don't want to see us spending where we don't have to, and so those are the concepts I've lived by. So I'm gonna do the same. And some people may not like that, and again, that's tough. But I want to look at the budget and see if there's room that we not cut, but maneuver so that there's no excess spending. We got to watch what we're spending, because this is going to be a big problem for schools and governments. COVID is going to cause some big budget gaps, and if we can save jobs and cut in other areas, I'm all for it.
Where do you see everything going with everything's online right now? If COVID is still bad in a year or so and we're still online, what are some of the problems that you expect out of that?
I'm for opening. So I just want to say that I'm for opening the classrooms eventually, because I think this school, if you have kids, that this online school isn't working well. It's causing problems, it doesn't work. So we need to figure out a way to open these schools safely, and that means social distancing. That means sanitizer. That means parents, if your child isn't feeling well, don't send them to school. The same concept is for the city college system. I want to figure out a way where we can open up these classrooms safer, because you could sit in front of a TV or a computer and hear your teacher. That's different than you actually being in a room while looking at the teacher with your eyes and being physically present. So I do think we need to figure out a plan to open the schools safer. And so, but sure, technology is not going anywhere. Now that we've kind of experimented with Zoom and all the other things, Microsoft Teams, those aren't going anywhere. So I see that there's going to be more of those kind of sessions, but I don't think that it should substitute from the actual classroom, which is much different.
Well, what are some of the disadvantages? Do you think that we're not getting as good of an education? Do you think some of us are going to slip through the cracks of because they had to pass us for certain things, but we didn't really grasp the meaning? Are these some big...
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think that I think it's tough to grade this, right? So you grade someone that was having technology and didn't finish an assignment. Is that really that fault or the thing? So I do think there's going to be kids and students that pass just because it's convenient, and there's going to be a huge education gap later on based on this, because if we're expecting all these students to learn the exact way that they did last year when they were in the classroom and move them on, I'm sorry, it's not happening. We're dreaming, because it's not happening. Being at home, learning for some kids for a lot of kids is not going to work, and the student is the same way.
What have you seen as far as drops, and I actually don't know any stats for this, of people staying in these community colleges and dropping out? And what are some of the things that you can do to help that?
Completion rates. We need to address these completion rates. That's what you're talking about.
Right.
It's
That's the right way of putting it.
You know, when I after high school, the joke was people are going to City College as a second high school because they didn't know what to do. And so we need to figure out what it is that people are good at and students are good at and push them along on that.
So that's the biggest problem, you think, what we were talking about in the beginning.
Right. I think people, I mean, we're saying that 4-year degrees are from everybody when they're not. So let's find out, and it's working with the schools at a younger age. Let's find out.
That's why I was asking if you're working with some of the younger, the school board for the high school on that, because
I have relationships with the different, you know, elected officials that I want to work with, and we need to find out what kids are good at. And when we find out what kids are good at, and that's where their passion is, maybe they'll go to the state center system, learn what it is they're doing, and get out instead of staying 4 or 5 or 6 years. You know, the other thing is there's a lot of students that stay on and they get financial aid for 3, 4, 5 years, and they only go to 1 or 2 classes. That's wrong too. We need to address that too.
well, you have a lot of big plans. I really love to see how this goes. What happens if you do not win? What's the game plan after that?
Hey, you know what? This isn't, like I said, I've got a full-time job. You know, I've got a family. This is not something that I need. If I lose, I'll be disappointed, but we all lose. We all win and we all lose. So what? You get back up the next day, you thank your supporters. I've met a lot of friends through this. I've met a lot of supporters through this. I've had a great time. I've met a lot of people knocking on doors and talking to them.
Isn't that a fun experience?
It's been great. So I've met a lot of people, so my Rolodex got bigger and my friends got bigger. And if I lose, you know, so be it. You know, look, there are times where the voters don't get it right. And so, you know, if I don't get voted in, that's fine. You know what? We win some and we lose some. And so the next day I'm going to get back up, be very thankful and grateful for the experience. Be thankful just that we went through what it is. And hey, it wasn't meant for me to win that election. But you know what, I'll tell you right now, we're going to do well because we've worked hard.
And would you try later on, 4 years from now, to run again?
You know, I'm not going to predict what I'm going to do later
You'll
on
see
in
how
life. We'll see what life opens up doors for me. When one door closes, another one opens. And so for me, that's the way I live my life. I'm thankful every day that I'm up and, you know, I've got the strength to carry on. And so some of that, hey, you know, you win some and you lose some. So we'll see what happens.
Would you think about restarting the radio show after if you win?
Could be.
And tell us some of the progress that's going on, kind of talk about a little bit of what's going on. Could you do that?
I could, and, you know,
Because that'd be really interesting.
It would, and that's a great idea. You know, Fresno State has a radio station on it. City College doesn't. So, you know, being that, and that's a great experience for students that go through the mass communication and journalism program.
Oh, I would have loved that.
So to be on radio as a student, I mean, that's so many benefits, which I was. You know, I had my radio show when I was 17 years old, you know. Didn't know anything about public speaking, but it built confidence, it built character.
And it helped you learn about public speaking eventually, practice.
It does, because the days that I was tired, or maybe we went out night, my show was in the mornings on Saturday. The days that we went out on Friday night and we came home late, the audience heard and knew, and I would get calls saying, knock it off, whatever you're doing on Friday nights.
This is awesome. Well, you're great. You're so down to earth. I really do hope that you win. I'd love to see what's going on. And where can we follow you to see the progress and support you?
Yeah, I've got my website is www.vote4sev.com. That's my website. You can learn all about me. I've got my Facebook page, you know, that you can follow with all the latest stuff that I'm doing. So, yeah, I mean, reach out. I would love to hear from people. I talk to people every day, and you know, it's a fun experience, and it's interesting experience. You running for office, you learn about the goods and you learn about the bads. It's an ugly business, and it's a very there's a lot of special interest involved that if you don't say what they want, they'll come after you. And so I've never been afraid of taking on groups, and so we'll see how this plays out.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.